10 months later, I sold everything I own, left everything and everyone I knew, and booked a one-way flight to Chiang Mai.
Woo!
I was terrified. That flight, like the flight, I can remember just sitting on that flight and I was like, what the hell am I doing? Like, what am I doing? Like, how long am I gonna survive out there? I kept wondering, like, am I gonna last a month, 3 months, 6 months? Let's find out,
Welcome to another video podcast of She Thinks Fierce. This is She Speaks Fierce today, females inspiring and empowering real change everywhere. I'm Kat, your friend and sister on this journey of self-empowerment. For all of you new viewers this week, you can find all of our content or any of our links, including our newsletter, Spotify, podcast, TikTok, Instagram, LinkedIn, and Facebook on our website, www.shethinksfierce.com. The link will be in the video description, as well as all of the links to contact our guest of honor today. And if you don't currently receive our free weekly newsletter reminding you about how awesome you are, please go to the website, click on any Substack newsletter, and click subscribe. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share all of our content with all of the fierce women you know. Today, we are going to hear from one of my favorite women in the world, a fellow solo traveler whom I had the pleasure of meeting when we ended up as roommates, well, neighbors, but basically roommates in Saranda, Albania. An English teacher, blogger, and YouTuber sharing all of her amazing experiences around the globe, Sarah Griffith. Hello, Sarah. Welcome.
Oh, hello. Good morning.
It was
Greetings.
just a slip up that we were roommates. I mean, we weren't really, but we were.
That's fate.
Right next to each other.
Yeah, that's fate though. Like, what a small place to meet. Little tiny Saranda, Albania. And to have an American neighbor, so cool. And I think it's really awesome when the universe works out that way.
I agree entirely. So can you tell us from the beginning what inspired you to embark on this journey as a solo female traveler? And how did you overcome any initial fears or hesitations that you may have experienced?
Well, I think some childhood fantasies probably were the first thing to inspire my journey.
Okay.
All of us, I think humans in general, we have this desire to explore and we want to see the world, but many of us don't actually take action and do that. And when I was a child, I wanted to be like Steve Irwin, and I wanted to save the sea turtles, save the sharks, and I wanted to scuba dive and explore African safaris and ride a camel in the desert. And I just always had these childhood fantasies of travel. And there was a particular trip that I took when I was 17. My high school sponsored a trip to Mexico for a mission trip.
Cool.
And I had never been out of the country before. And I'd never really witnessed true poverty before either. So this particular trip really blew my mind and taught me a lot of things. Most importantly, the power of gratitude, because when you see real poverty firsthand, it takes a toll on your heart. And during the mission trip, we did a lot of construction work. We were building floors and walls and mixing cement, pouring cement, and then the other time was spent connecting with the orphans. This was a local orphanage where we were staying. So we were, playing soccer and learning Spanish, and I was jamming guitar and trying to learn worship songs and preach the word of God and do all this, fun stuff with the local people. Anyway, that trip just really stuck with me and gave me this soft spot for Mexico. I'm still obsessed with, I'll forever be obsessed with Mexico. But that was the first time I'd ever done any volunteering. Okay. And I think that experience made me want to volunteer in the future and made me want to travel more and learn more about Latin culture. And I started learning Spanish, and it just really set my desire to volunteer and spend more time in Mexico from that point on. which I
Okay.
ended up doing throughout my college days, going down partying in Mexico and doing all the Cabo Cancun stuff.
Uh-huh. Okay.
So I I was inspired to volunteer through that experience, but I think I just always had a desire to see what's out there, to know like what's out there.
Yeah.
And
Well,
yes,
so
I was
okay.
scared.
So okay, in the beginning, especially as a woman traveling alone, a lot of people kind of feel like this would be a lonely experience. So
Yeah.
can you share a
It's
time when traveling
scary.
solo made you feel more connected to the world around you, or maybe even yourself?
Yes. I was terrified the day that I took my one-way flight to Chiang Mai, Thailand. It was 2018, and I'd been planning this trip for about 10 months.
Wow. Okay.
Um, in 2017, I went on this girls' trip to Thailand and had the most incredible 2 weeks. And I remember the day I was laying on this long-tail boat, one of those traditional boats. I was laying in the sun, and we had just done 2 dives, and I just saw so many turtles and so much sea life. And I was laying on that boat all salty and sweaty. And I told my girlfriends, I'm moving here. I have to live in Thailand. I have to. And they laughed at me and didn't believe me.
Of
And I said,
course.
I'm serious. Like, I'm going to give myself 1 year. I'm going to work my ass off. I'm going to save a lot of money, and I'm going to move to Thailand. Like, I have to know more about this place. It's crazy. So fast forward 10 months later, I sold everything I own, left everything and everyone I knew, and booked a one-way flight to Chiang Mai.
Woo!
I was terrified. That flight, like the flight, I can remember just sitting on that flight, and I was like, what the hell am I doing? Like, what am I doing? Like, how long am I gonna survive out there? I kept wondering, like, am I gonna last a month, 3 months, 6 months? Let's find out. And I was so scared. And the thing I think that pushed me to just go for it was I was scared to leave, but I was even more scared to stay,
Sure.
because my life at that point in time was just on a downward slope, and things were really bad. And I was really going through a lot of depression, and I guess we could call it like a quarter life crisis. Where I was just like,
Yeah.
what am I doing with my life? I wasn't happy. I was working 3 jobs and just running this hamster wheel. And I just, well, the biggest problem was I didn't love myself.
Yeah.
I didn't know myself. I didn't love myself. And deciding to take this journey was the way I disconnected from everything and everyone, and then turned my focus to the relationship with myself. And I'd never done that before.
That's a big
I
move.
I never thought about the amount of love I should have for myself. I never thought about putting myself first. I was always concerned with getting love from others to fill the void of not loving myself. And none of that would have came to my mind if I hadn't had taken this journey alone and separated myself from any distractions, obligations. That first 6 months in Thailand was a freaking whirlwind of fear, learning, and it was a total self-love journey, basically. And if
Amazing.
I would have been with other people, that would have never happened. It would have been like all my other trips in the past, having fun with friends and not really focusing on the connection and relationship that I have to myself.
Yeah.
So I can thank Thailand. That first 6 months in Thailand, my first 6 months abroad were the loneliest 6 months of my life, because I've
Uh-huh.
never solo traveled. I'd never taken any trip alone. So that first 6 months, yeah, I was lonely, but I was also mesmerized by the beauty of that country and that culture, a culture that is just so completely different from my own. Like I was overwhelmed, but really happy and scared and lonely all at the same time. And that really forced me to look in the mirror and face my shit. Like,
Amazing.
nowhere to
And
run.
and I
Nowhere
laugh
to
because I had the same kind of experience almost
yeah.
to a T when I left. So I
Like
understand the pain
fear.
intimately.
Like, what am I
And
doing?
in the beginning, the mistakes you make are ridiculous, but
Yes.
it's a great learning experience, right?
Yes.
Eventually you kind of get things down and then you start to get your groove and really get into it. But this leads us to my next thought. So how has this experience for you, especially as a female solo traveler, really challenged or changed your perceptions about women traveling alone? Or both for yourself or the women that you've encountered? Because this is the number one thing that I hear from other women is, how do you do this and how do you feel safe being by yourself?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And people have different definitions for what they consider to be safe. Some people can't handle discomfort very well and they think, oh, I'm
Sure.
not comfortable, I'm not safe. And I definitely had some of that going into this journey. I was thinking, oh my God, anything that felt uncomfortable was like danger, danger, danger. And I will say that traveling as a solo female is risky. I'm not going to say it's not risky, but it's your responsibility to mitigate those risks
Sure.
and be responsible and educate yourself on how to travel responsibly and safely. I think a lot of women, like you mentioned, will say, you know, I wanted to take this trip, but my friends won't go and my spouse can't go, so I can't go.
Yeah.
And yes, you can go and you should go. And you should face that discomfort and you should face the challenges and face the fears because it's so, so worth it. It's so worth it to solo travel. And I think every woman should at least once in their life take a solo trip and set aside that fear.
Amen.
The truth is, bad things can and will happen anywhere in the world,
Including home. I haven't
including
I haven't lived a single place in the world, including when I had home back in the States, wherever it may have been, where I didn't feel that night was dangerous if I was out by myself. Or where
yeah,
there weren't other things that, I mean, you can still have your house broken into, you can still go, have all of these things, get in a car accident or be hit by a car or something else, I mean, this happens everywhere.
yes,
So
danger
that's,
is everywhere.
yeah.
And that's why it's thrilling. It's part of the adrenaline rush and the thrill of traveling alone is that fear of am I in danger and having to be aware and mindful of your surroundings at all times.
Yeah.
And that's another thing. I think before I started traveling, I was a bit aloof and I I was more relaxed and careless and lazy in regards to observing my environment because I always thought I was safe because
Yeah.
I was always in America. But out there, I'm alert and I'm mindful of everything happening around me. I'm watching the cars, I'm watching the people, and I'm I'm also flooded with this courage and confidence because I've been doing it so long that I have faced really shitty situations. I have been in really I get chills thinking about it. I've been in some shitty situations, but those situations taught me how to face challenges in the future and they made me stronger, wiser, more courageous, more confident,
And
and just
do you still
overall
get
smarter,
scared
you know?
every once in a while? Are there still, times when you get nervous?
Yes, definitely. And that's why you really have to do your research and there's a lot of safety tips and tricks I would love to share. I think that it's really important to do your research, do your homework. When you know you're going to be traveling in a specific area, read blogs, listen to what the people are saying, talk to people that have been there before, familiarize yourself with cultural norms, because that's another issue in regards to safety. Women are
Sure.
treated very differently in different countries,
Yes, absolutely.
and you might feel unsafe just because the way that you're being treated by a man in a foreign place, and for him that's just normal,
Yeah.
because maybe you, in that culture, you may be seen as a second class citizen. Maybe he doesn't want to speak to you directly, and you think, wow, so rude, so disrespectful. Hey, well, no, that's just life for him. That's just normal.
Maybe there's a women's train.
Yeah.
Uh, Sometimes there are actually like places, right? In hostels, there are women's dorms. There are some specific for women who don't want to do co-ed and co-sex and whatever. And in a lot of these countries, you've got both options as well.
Yes.
So
And I think we need to not be so fearful of the stereotypes and the reputations that certain countries have. Think about Colombia, for example. Colombia has the worst reputation in regards to safety. I
okay,
was in
yeah.
Colombia 3 months, and not once, I had one shitty thing happen, but the bad things that
But in
happen.
3 months, that's pretty good.
Yeah, but it wasn't like I never felt unsafe. I was never worried about my safety in
Good.
Colombia. I
Yeah.
had an incredible 3 months there, and it's such a beautiful culture, and I loved the people. I will admit, there was one night in downtown Cartagena where I was groped, and yeah, someone reached up under my dress, and that was really shitty. But aside from that, that entire 3 months, I felt perfectly safe, and I was so happy I didn't listen to the people who warned me before my trip.
And
Why?
and
Why
again, I
Colombia?
want to
There's so
interject
many
here.
other safer places. Why would you go
Just
there?
because you were in Colombia is not an isolated event for being groped. I cannot tell you how many times I was groped in the US at a random bar or club
Yeah.
without, when the place is full and someone just thinks that they can have free access
Get
wherever.
away with it.
Yeah. So this is not necessarily specific to, it can be more aggressive depending on where you're at, but it is definitely not specific to country. I have found anywhere you go, you can have both very safe experiences and not so safe experiences. This is
Right. And I've heard
everywhere.
horror stories, even about some of my favorite countries that I consider my safe haven, like
Yeah.
Thailand.
Yeah.
I, in my mind, it's one of the safest places on the planet. It's in my heart forever. I can't wait to go back. And I've heard rape stories from Thailand. It can happen anywhere, any place, anytime.
So
It's really,
on that note, but going the opposite direction,
yeah.
can you recount like a moment or interaction where your heart was deeply touched and you realized the power of traveling alone as a woman?
Yes, there's quite a few. One that stands out is my trek to Everest Base Camp. I met, and that journey, the trek itself, that 11 days was not alone, but I arrived in Kathmandu alone, and I met 4 women, all from different places, and we trekked together to Everest Base Camp, and along with our Nepalese guides and the random people we met on the trail along the way, this crazy, hilarious group of Argentinians and some American guy. We met a lot of cool people, but over that course of that 11 days, these women went from perfect strangers that I know nothing about to what felt like my tribe, like my family.
Beautiful.
And it's because we were doing something really, really intense, really challenging and hard. I mean, we did an 11-day trek from Lukla, Nepal to Everest Base Camp, and it was freaking intense. It was crazy. But when we got there, when we got to base camp, I just started bawling. I'm going to cry right now thinking about it. I started bawling happy tears, and we were all like, just crying and hugging and singing. We, with our Argentinian friends, we were dancing on the helipad and just singing Spanish kitchen songs, and drinking beer and just like celebrating life. We were so high on life, and we had this just strong sense of accomplishment and this strong connection and bond. And
Beautiful.
I never met these women in my life, and then 11 days later I'm like, oh, I love you, and look what we did together, and I will never forget this moment. And when you travel alone, that's what happens. You connect with people that you never would have met if you hadn't been alone. When we travel with friends, we don't reach out to strangers. We have our tribe. We don't need to look for another tribe. But when we're alone, like I gotta tell you how excited, you can't imagine how excited I was when I saw you in Saranda. Girl, and lucky me,
it's 10 o'clock.
You're just amazing. And I just instantly connected with you. And that would not have happened if I had been with a group, with a tribe. I wouldn't have reached out and tried to make friends and make those connections. And those connections, some of the people you meet, you'll create a lifelong friendship with them. And
absolutely,
that's what solo travel can provide, those connections and those experiences, especially with local people. You make local friends.
How has this shaped your understanding of empowerment? And why would you say that every woman should experience it at least once?
I think empowerment is one of the many gifts, maybe the biggest gift of solo travel. Because think about it. Think about all the things that you can accomplish without the pressure and the walls that society puts around you. If you let your guard down and take risks and push yourself and challenge yourself and just go for things, anything can happen, and you can accomplish things you never imagined that you could do, right? And that's why I think everyone has to do it. Everyone has to try it, because nothing else can do that for you. You have to be alone experiencing those things with yourself and learning about yourself and learning the things you want to change about yourself, maybe the ugly side of yourself that you weren't being honest with yourself about, like, this is mental. Why am I doing this to myself? Why am I self-sabotaging? Why am I not loving myself? I don't know. I think solo travel empowered me because it gave me the strength and courage to take risks. And it gave me this sense that there were no limitations in my life. For once in my life, I thought, wait a minute, I can do whatever the hell I want. I don't have to ask permission. I don't have to call someone and see what they think about it. I don't have to worry about someone judging me. No one's around. I can do whatever the hell I want. That's freedom, baby. That's like.
Do you remember the first time that hit you when you left? I was on a beach in Thailand swimming, and I was thinking, all of my friends are at work right now. It's a random Wednesday at like 10 o'clock in the morning in San Francisco, and I'm swimming in Thailand.
And then once you get a taste of that freedom, you want more.
Yeah.
And once you take a risk here and there and you see the rewards that come from it, then you're willing to push yourself even harder and challenge yourself even more. Whereas in the past, you'd see this opportunity floating by and you'd say, man, that would be awesome. Oh, that looks great. Oh, that's lovely. But it's too risky. It's too risky. Well, that opportunity flows to someone else and you miss that opportunity. But when you're alone and you're you have the time to ask yourself questions about the life you're living and the path you're on. And you can say, how can I make my life better? How can I do more of what I love? And that was the other thing with travel. I was experiencing new things and doing things that I enjoyed, that in my previous life in America, I always made excuses for why I couldn't do those things.
Yeah.
Oh, I can't go scuba diving. I can't take this trip. It's too expensive. I can't ask off work. I can't do this. That's it. Always excuses. Once you're out there, none of that matters. It's like, oh, what do I want to do? What have I always dreamed about doing? Well, I've always dreamed about riding a camel through an Arabian desert. Okay, let's go to Morocco. You know, and it's empowering. Volunteering was also really empowering. But doing it alone was what made it so empowering, because I had only myself to rely on. And like I said, it taught me the power of self-love. It taught me the power of taking risks and pushing myself without the fear and or concern about what anyone else has to say about it.
Sure.
You know, nowadays,
that's a really important part, is not really looking to others to define you and what you're possible or what's possible for you, what you're capable of, right? Because that's something that even if we don't try to do it, it's something that I think so many of us do automatically. We just care what other people think about us, and we care about the way that we should be doing something and what we should wear and how we should handle ourselves in different situations, and when we should speak or not speak, or when we should share something. And I mean, to me, the speaking, sharing part in travel initially was one of my favorite parts, because all of a sudden, especially in the long-term traveling and meeting people who were just constantly in and out, people didn't care what you said. I mean, they wanted to hear it. They didn't care if they disagreed with you. They didn't care if you did something weird. They didn't care if you were a weirdo. We shared so many of our deepest secrets. There is nothing about me that I haven't shared with people traveling, and same thing with other people, because you know what, you're going to see them today and tomorrow they're going to be gone, and they don't care and you don't care. And there's a freedom in being able to really open up and share everything and not have to care about what happens tomorrow when they remember and see me at work. I mean, because that doesn't exist. It's just every day. And oh, amazing. I love it. So okay, what about some of the unexpected friendships that you made? So you already talked about one really cool experience. Do you have any other heartwarming stories of bond that you formed while you're on the road and how it impacted your journey?
Yes, I think there's too many stories to tell. I can't even put into words the amount of kindness that has been shown to me. And that's another gift of solo travel, is you get this love and faith in humanity and the kindness of others. And I don't think I really appreciated that before my journey. I think I was always a positive person, but a lot of that positivity was a shield. A lot of it was fake. A lot of it was, oh, everything's great. And deep down inside, I'm dying. I'm like, I hate life. So the positivity I already had, but I wasn't really appreciative of the kindness of others and how small things can have such a huge impact on the lives of others. And I felt a lot of that because the connections I made, and because the local people I met, the way they treated me and the way they took me into their homes and just made me a part of their family. I was overwhelmed with the love that I was receiving from people I didn't even know.
Yeah.
That's what was so powerful about that. And I got to tell you, I can thank a lot of my Airbnb stays for those experiences. And nowadays, I used to only search for accommodations where I had my own room and my own space, or the whole accommodation was mine.
Yeah.
Now, after the last 5 years, I've realized, oh, I know, I want to stay with some local people. Like, I try to find families. I look at the hosts and I try to see, like, oh, is she my age? Maybe she has similar interests in me. I like to message the host and ask them about themselves. And
Right.
I don't know how I get so lucky. I do. I get lucky because I take risks, because I'm just like, I'm going to live with this person and see how they are. The people I've stayed with, especially on Airbnb, they've just overwhelmed me with hospitality and love, and they
Yeah.
share their culture with me, and they make me feel like I'm their family, and they feed me, they take me to cool places and give me advice, give me rides, you know, treat me to their homemade hooch, like homemade Rocky in Turkey.
Uh-huh.
Like,
Okay.
they just would like take such great care of me without expecting anything in return,
Yeah.
you know, and you
And
know,
I experienced this with you in Albania as well. Our host took us out and showed us around and took us to some private beaches and out to eat. And I mean, even then when we were exploring and hiking and we met that random couple who then like kept us for dinner and we
yes,
had this huge
oh no, oh,
cultural
I love that.
activity.
Oh, that was so fun. Oh my
I
God, I love the
mean,
castle night. Oh,
yes.
that gives me chills. That's what I'm talking about. Like,
Yeah,
oh, those experiences, like
purely authentic.
truly authentic, out of the blue. And those are memories that you take to your grave.
Yeah.
Like, you never forget those moments, and you never forget those people. And a lot of those people I stay in contact with. I have some 3 of my Japanese friends from Japan. We talk on WhatsApp all the time. Like, I stay
Uh-huh.
connected with a lot of these people, and I tell them, I'm gonna come back. I'm gonna come visit. And you just build this friendship that
Yeah.
is like a lifelong thing. On my recent trip to Japan, I had this bond with a woman, Koko-san. She's 70 years old, and I'd never been friends with someone that much older than me, like a stranger, you know.
Uh-huh.
Um, she she was my student, actually.
Wow.
And when I told her, hey, I'm going to be spending time in Kanagawa, south of Tokyo, she told me she lived in this little beach town, Fujisawa. And I said, she said, let's meet. Sure,
Perfect.
yeah, let's meet. And I met up with Koko-san and ended up spending an entire month in this little beach town, Chigasaki, which was like 30 minutes from her.
Uh-huh.
And between her and another friend that I made, my Airbnb host, Erica, between these 2 Japanese women, I didn't want to leave. I felt like, oh
Oh,
my God, I love, they were my friends, Koko-san, sightseeing everywhere, and I helped her with her English, and she helped me teach me some Japanese.
amazing.
And she took me to these hot springs, really hidden, like authentic places that I wouldn't have found on my own.
Yeah.
Right. And she invited me on a weekend trip with her and her husband, and they were just cooking me homemade food. And I don't know, it was
Oh,
just like,
yum.
they were treating me as if I was their daughter, messaging me, do you want to come over for dinner? Yeah, I'll take a train to the apartment, come over for dinner. And even though there was a bit of a language barrier, she and I just had this bond, and we still do. And it's just crazy how that happened, because it wasn't planned. It was just,
Part of the
hey,
experience. Yeah.
let's meet up, and I'll give you some English lessons.
Uh-huh.
And I was playing the teacher, but I became the student, because she taught me so much, and she shared everything about Japanese culture with me, and it was just beautiful.
So in what ways do you feel like solo travel has transformed you? And how do you think it can be a transformative experience for other women?
um it definitely shook me and changed my perspectives on things, on life. You know, we're humans. We have a lot of biases and a lot of judgments. We pass a lot of judgments, and we don't like to change our minds about things.
It's
But
definitely hard.
yeah, especially when it comes to like core values and core beliefs and things
Yes.
that we thought as children, you know, that we were raised to think.
Yeah.
But then we experience these other cultures and these other places, and we see different points of view, and we start opening our minds and expanding our minds to consider other perspectives. And I think it's opened my mind. It's made me open-minded, less judgmental,
Perfect.
and it's made me feel like the world, I need to explore the world. I don't think I can ever stop. It's become an addiction now. It's a healthy addiction, but
No, I get
gotten to
it.
a point where now, like, I got going with it and I can't stop. Well,
Yeah.
and originally I just wanted to survive a year in Asia. Okay. Now it's been 5 years and I'm like, let's go to Panama, you know, like I gotta go somewhere. I got itchy feet. But I have a new perspective on my own life. Instead of running around trying to please others, trying to be liked, trying to be loved, trying to do what other people think is best for me, I am even more independent than I ever was in my life.
Amazing.
I'm all about doing what's best for me and what's going to steer me towards a better quality of life. Like, life is already good, but how can I make it better?
Yeah.
How can I do even more of what I love? And how can I share my creativity and creative outlets and things that I dreamt about doing as a child, but I never did? Well, now I can, because I have the courage to try. It
Yeah.
never hurts to try. Like, just get out there and try it. I'm willing to try any new thing. You know, I'm willing to eat anything once, try anything once. I'm willing to be uncomfortable.
Almost that courageous, but there are a few things that I've said no to on occasion. I haven't done the bugs. I'm sorry, I can't do it.
Oh, eat all the bugs. I'll eat all the bugs.
Okay, so lastly, as we're wrapping up, what is a final message that you'd like to share with women who dream of traveling but are holding back due to fears and societal expectations? And what are maybe a few bullet points of things that they can do to overcome these fears and get out there?
Just go, and go now. There's no time like the present, and there's never going to be a perfect time. You're never going to be fully prepared and fully ready. You just got to go, and you got to go now. You've got to take the risk, push yourself, and you will be rewarded. You will be rewarded. I think I said before, everyone at one point in their lives needs to experience solo travel. You got to do it. But do your research, and maybe don't dive right in and try to survive a year in Asia. Maybe take it small, take baby steps, you know, go with your comfort zone. And no, don't stay out of your comfort zone, but start slow and travel to a country that has a really good reputation for safety. Go to a country that has a lot of expat communities, a lot of other tourists, a lot of other foreigners that you can meet while you're there. Go to a place that has a lot of hostels, good accommodations, good food. It's crazy what a difference good weather and good food can make when you're
Oh,
out
great
there.
beach.
So
Yeah.
yeah, great. Go to a place that speaks to you because of the nature, weather, culture, you know, and maybe make a list, do some research, and try to find the places that speak to you most. But the most important thing is to just go, just do it. And before you do it, I highly recommend you read my favorite travel book. It's called Vagabonding by Rolf Potts. and it will give you some eye-opening perspectives on wealth and how it relates to extended travel, because,
Okay.
I think that's one of the biggest concerns for most people is they want to travel and they want to do it long term, but they feel like they can't afford it and they don't know how.
Absolutely.
So read that book and um,
And that is
make a plan.
something that we'll address in a future podcast. I do think the financial aspect of what keeps people afraid of traveling, even though it is a concern, especially post COVID and post other issues in the world that have increased inflation, it is something that I think is not as crazy as people think it is. There are definitely ways around it, and you and I have both experienced that. So
Yeah,
also
the
not
huge
a good fear.
misconception. People assume you have to be wealthy to enjoy extended travel, and that's just not the case.
That is not
Read
the
that
case at
book,
all.
and I'm telling you, it will further inspire your desire to get out there and just try something new and experience a new part of the world, but also experience yourself and your best life. And just do it. Just go. Just do it.
Amen.
Not let the opportunity pass you by. Just go.
Yes. And regardless of how many bad stories that you've heard or things that you've experienced, and I have too in 6.5 years of traveling myself, they're such a minority compared to the majority that I mean, again, and this can happen anywhere in the world, including your own home. So, this is absolutely not something to hold you back as a woman. That I am not as big into the research as you are, but I definitely think it can be helpful. I'm a
Yeah.
little bit more of the dive in and do
See
kind
what
of thing.
happens?
But
And
that did teach me a lot of things initially in the first year of Asia, especially. So, sometimes research really does help, guys.
how you learn, and learn through experience, and don't be afraid to make mistakes. You will fall on your face. You are going to fail. That's
Yeah,
life. But
several
failure,
times.
like Yoda says, the greatest teacher failure is. Just fail. Don't be afraid to fail. Just get out there, make mistakes, learn, connect to yourself, connect to the world, and follow your passion. Do the things that bring you joy, happiness. And one thing we didn't mention that just popped up in my mind is, you'd think that after solo traveling so long and being away from home would make my relationships kind of fall apart. And that has over the years been a fear of mine, is, oh my gosh, this guilt of, am I being a good sister? Am I being a good aunt, daughter, godmother? Am I being there for the people I love? And I'm thinking, no, I'm really not. I'm out here traveling. I'm so selfish. But before I was traveling, I didn't have strong, healthy bonds and relationships because I didn't love myself and I wasn't focusing on those relationships. Traveling alone taught me to value those relationships and those connections, and to spend more time maintaining those relationships and keeping them strong. So while I
Beautiful.
was some of the time I was traveling, I actually had more video calls and more conversations than I had when I
Uh-huh.
was in,
Oh
because I
yeah.
just missed them so much and the distance was so far.
Yeah, absolutely.
So
You find ways to connect because
yeah,
you're not there in person with them.
yeah.
Well, Sarah, you have been such a gift today. I was so happy to have been able to talk to you and for you to be able to share some of your experiences with our viewers around the world. I know some of these women on here have already traveled, and so they are going to fully support and believe everything that you've said already. And for those who have not, this is the challenge. Married, single, kids, doesn't matter. Get out there, do your thing. A week, 2 weeks, a month, a year, you do you. Just try it sometime because it is really a beautiful experience, and we can both attest to that. It has been a great experience for both of us. So,
Yes.
Sarah, thank you once again. To all of our viewers, thank you for coming today. I hope that you have gotten an empowered message to take back with you, and we will see you next time. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.